So I just decided that I'm gonna start recording. I need some water. I don't know what I'm gonna title this video. It's gonna be like a really chill video. I'm literally in a random parking lot because I just feel like a lot more comfortable in my car talking because nobody else is here. Today we are talking about my struggle with anxiety, everything to do with that, my story, and the reason why I wanted to film this was because I want people to be able to relate, and I want to help anyone who's going through it as well, because when I started dealing with anxiety and mental health, I felt very much alone. I've opened up about it before, obviously, like to my parents, my friends and everything, but filming it and putting it on the internet is a totally different thing. I'm starving. We're gonna deal with that first. I want to kind of take you through my story. It was grade 9 or 10. I didn't know what anxiety was. I actually ended up missing 2 weeks of high school because I was not feeling well. To try and explain that to your parents, your friends, your doctor, that you are just not feeling right, you're not feeling good, and everyone around me was just confused because I was scared. In other words, this was anxiety, but back when I was in grade 9 and 10, I had no clue what that was. I had like the flu, and then obviously when you have the flu, like you're throwing up and everything. And I remember like trying to go back to school because like I was missing a lot already. It's already been like 3 to 4 school days. I remember sitting in one of my classes on the first day back after I was sick, and this is so hard to explain. I wasn't able to get out of my head. I would say to myself, like, basically anxiety, like your body is in like a fight or flight mode, and you can basically make yourself feel a certain way even if you're not. That's just kind of like my experience with it. Like I would be sitting at my desk and all of a sudden I would literally feel like I was gonna throw up. I would feel so sick, dizzy, lightheaded. I couldn't pay attention to anything else around me except for the way that I was feeling, which was my anxiety. But at that moment I was just like, I remember I would describe it to my family and my doctor as like this sick feeling that I kept getting because I didn't know of the term anxiety. I didn't know what that was. I was prescribed anxiety medication after an experience that I had in college. So I'm going to talk about that because that's like what triggered everything. So right now I'm currently 22. I'm turning 23 in September, and I graduated high school in 2014. So I went to college right after. So I went to college about 45 minutes away from home. I had stayed in residence. I went to college for animal care. I knew right out of high school, like I wanted to work with animals. I wanted to do something with them, and that was always like my calling. I was always like obsessing over dogs and asking my parents for a dog for my entire childhood. It's a 1-year program, and I actually ended up being a college dropout because of my anxiety, which is so everything was going good. I would say it had been maybe like 1 to 2 months being at that college. 2 months. I don't remember feeling much anxiety. I do remember feeling lonely, and I was away from my family and my friends, so I was definitely lonely and in my head a lot. I had a lot of free time for myself. I didn't really go out to any events or anything because I had well, I have and I still have social anxiety. But again, back then I didn't know what it was until I'll explain after. But basically, I was in a class one day. It was a lab. We were standing. So the instructor was in the middle and she was showing us everything and we were standing. This is something that just happened so fast, but I still remember it so clearly. We were standing for quite a while and the room just kind of felt like it was tipping. I remember just all of a sudden feeling like this overwhelming amount of anxiety. So I was lightheaded, I was dizzy, and I actually ended up passing out like really quick. And it was in front of the entire class. This is where everything comes into play, where I basically what happened in high school happened, but a million times worse. So following that, I took like a couple days off of classes, and it was like, to be totally honest, after that happened, because of my high school experience, I knew that I was not going to be able to go back to any classes. Like, that was it. I was like, I can't go back to any classes. Like, I would just tell myself that. And I couldn't. I went to maybe 1 or 2, and I just remember feeling so physically ill and being terrified of that happening to me again, that I would just feel so dizzy and lightheaded, and I was just so afraid of that happening to me again. I don't want this to be like depressing or anything, but I genuinely feel like I was like in a depressed state at one point. Long story short, I couldn't go back to classes, and then I had to drop out of my program. And I am definitely a strong believer of everything happens for a reason, but obviously going through those things, it's really hard to understand why it's happening. So this is kind of where I realized that I have anxiety. I had to go to therapy because I could not leave my house for anything. I didn't have a job. I couldn't drive. I couldn't hang out with my friends. I couldn't go to the mall. I couldn't get into the car. I really couldn't do anything but be in my own house, which is so terrible to look back on. And I wouldn't say I wasted away like part of my life, but I really had no control over it because I didn't understand what was happening. I had this fear, this anxiety that the same thing that kept happening to me, I was gonna have a sick feeling, or I was gonna pass out somewhere. I didn't want that attention. I didn't want anything to happen to me. So basically that's where all of my anxiety stemmed from, was an experience where it's triggered. So from high school and then college. This is so weird to talk about, to be totally honest. Like, it's hard to put the words together. So I have a dog, her name's Lexi, and dude, what the hell? No crying. She was like a huge part in like my recovery, if you want to call it. I think that my parents felt so desperate like to help me that like they knew that I needed something. We adopted her, and you know, taking her for a walk was a big deal. Like I said before, I didn't want to leave the house, and she kind of, it was like a force, but not forced. Like, I knew I had to walk my dog. I knew I had to take care of her. I knew I had to take her to like her appointments when she was a puppy. She was almost like a stepping stone for me to get out of that rut that I was in, because I had to take her for a walk. I had to take her here. I had to take her there. And she was always like by my side, my companion. Like, if I ever was, you know, feeling anxious or just upset, like I would go hug her or cuddle her. So thank God, she's turning 5 years old this year, so that's, I guess it was like 4 to 5 years ago that it happened. So I ended up going to therapy. So I would go to therapy, I think it was once a week, like really close to home. My parents would drop me off and then pick me up. It would last about an hour. Opening up was definitely really hard, I will admit that, and even getting myself to therapy, getting myself to doctor's appointments was very hard. Waiting in the waiting area was always like, my heart would race. I could literally feel my heart like beating out of my chest because I was just so anxious and nervous all the time to go anywhere other than my house, my bed. So yeah, I did go to therapy for, I don't know, I want to say like a year, and then she felt like I was at a good state. She taught me like a lot of stuff that, you know, she taught me about anxiety, what anxiety is, how your body reacts, how your mind reacts, and different ways that I can cope with it, how I can kind of move forward in life with it. I hope this video is making sense. I'm glad that I was pushed to go to therapy. Otherwise, I don't know if I would have been able to get through any of that, like, you know, experience that I went through. I wanted to also mention the fact that I am on, I don't want to hide anything from you guys, like I am on medication for my anxiety. I have been ever since that, and I still am. I don't know anything about it. I take it, it was prescribed to me, and that's all. Like, I'm sure that you can talk to your doctor about it if you are, you know, going through something similar. If you feel like you have, I would say, like, my biggest advice, if you are feeling this way, if you are anxious, if you have panic attacks, anxiety attacks, depression, unfortunately, like, you do have to literally force yourself and push yourself to go see a therapist, talk to your parents, talk to your friends, go talk to your doctor, educate yourself on it. And honest to God, 4 years ago, I never, ever, ever, ever thought I would be where I am today. I want to be open and honest about my life, and I want to be able to help anyone that's going through it as well. I can make another video on this, like a part 2 if you guys want, like going in more depth of, you know, like the tips and tricks that I have for when I am anxious. I would love to make a video all about that. If you guys would like to see it, make sure to let me know in the comments. I hope that this video was helpful in any way. If it helped even one person, I'd be really happy. So I just want to kind of reflect on my life and my experiences and show you that you can get out of it. I'm pretty happy. I have anxiety still, but only every so often, and I am able to manage it at this point in my life. So yeah, I will see you guys in my next video, and I really appreciate you clicking on today's video and listening to my story. I would love to hear about yours. If you have a video, make sure to leave that in the comments down below as well, and I will see you guys in my next video.